What's going on, everyone? In today's episode, I'm going to share with you something that is super simple that you can be doing to your garlic to increase your overall harvest by up to 75%. You heard that right. Very simple thing you can do, 75% bigger yields. Let's go. So if you're growing garlic, you're growing either one of two varieties. You're growing either a softneck variety or a hardneck variety. Now, they're both great, but the differences between the two are very subtle, but could make a huge difference if you don't properly take care of the one variety, and that's hardnecks. Now, softnecks, they form all of their cloves on what's called a basal plate. Hardnecks also have a basal plate, but it's a little bit different. Softnecks have a basal plate that basically forms all of the garlic cloves in one head of garlic, and it almost looks like artichoke almost. If you can imagine the leaves on an artichoke, that's what a garlic head looks like under the ground that is softneck. However, hardnecks have a basal plate that's attached to a central stem. And the central stem, the cloves form all around that central stem and not in the center. That center is a hard neck. Now, if you let a hardneck grow into about early to mid-June, you're going to have what's known as a scape. And a scape is how that garlic actually forms a flower to try to form seed. So garlic over the centuries has actually been bred to be sterile. Now it still will try to form a flower, and a lot of times they will flower, but they're sterile, and that's due to what's known as selective breeding. We've been breeding garlic to be grown for its cloves and divided out that way rather than form seed or true seed through flowers. Now, there are some garlics that do produce true seed and flowers, so that's not always the case, but most domesticated, commercially grown garlics are sterile. That means they're not going to form seed, but they will try to produce a flower. Now, hardnecks will form that flower through that main stalk that grows up. They will form one flower stalk each plant, and that flower stalk will come, basically, as I said, around mid-June. And if we want to make sure that we conserve the energy and force it to go down into the bulb again to form bigger bulbs, we need to cut the scapes. Now, a lot of gardeners will let their scapes go or they will forget them, and then when they harvest their garlic, they find out that their garlic is really teeny tiny and underdeveloped. And that's because most of the energy, because garlic is an allium, that means it's a biennial. It grows the first year, gets established, and the second year it will flower. It is actually forcing most of its energy into flowering rather than dividing its cloves and getting larger cloves at that. So what we want to do if we want larger cloves is we want to harvest our scapes. And that's great because scapes can actually be consumed as well. They're really tender and they look really crazy, but they kind of taste almost like if garlic met asparagus. Really delicious. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna come through here and we're gonna pick off the scapes. Now this is really simple, like I said, and we're gonna save these. We're actually gonna take them inside and cook them up. But it is so important that you do this because if you don't, like I said, all that energy that is forming this flower stalk here will go into forming the flowers rather than getting larger bulbs. And you're gonna end up with what I kind of call like a mono bulb. If you ever pull your garlic up and it looks like just one big, almost like a tiny version of an onion, that's what we call a mono bulb. And that's because it did not actually form those cloves fully, formed more scapes than it did cloves. And again, this is with hardnecks only. Softnecks are a little bit more forgiving, well, a lot more forgiving, but regionally they can be a little tricky to grow in colder climates. So there's a little give and take with that. But I prefer to grow about 75% of my garlic being hardnecks and about 25% of my garlic being softnecks, just because I don't know what the season is going to throw at us. If I had a crystal ball, last winter I would have grown all softnecks because we had a very mild winter. They would have been just fine. But when it comes to normal Michigan winters, hardnecks are usually kind of the most productive and has the best survival rate. But our garlic did great, and I'm really excited to see how it performs. But coming in here, you'll notice after it gets 3 sets of leaves, so 6 leaves total, right? You're gonna have, because of the way that it forms, you're gonna have 1 set, 2 sets, 3 sets, and on that 4th set, that's where it's going to form the scape. Oftentimes it looks just like another leaf forming until if you look just up close, it starts to have this little ball. And that little ball is that flower that's going to form. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in here, we're gonna take them all out, and then that way, come about first, second week in July, we're gonna do our harvest. Once about 25 to 40, maybe 50% at most of the plant is dead, 25 to 50% is dead and brown, we're gonna pull up our garlic and we should have some beautiful garlic cloves. Oh, the smell is so good, you guys. Like I said, it smells just like I said, asparagus meets garlic. It's absolutely amazing. But you can make a garlic scape pesto with it. We actually have a video on that. We did that last year and turned out really good. Made some homemade pasta as well. See, here we're getting into some of the soft necks, so there's not as many of the scapes over here. But the scapes, we have to look through with a fine-tooth comb, because if we forget them, you'll miss them. They get very hidden in amongst all the other growth that looks like a scape, but it's not. So we're just kind of looking at each individual plant, and then as they form, we're gonna pick those scapes out. And they're all gonna form at different times too. So like right now we're getting our early scapes. In about a week, we're gonna get some of our later scapes, because we're growing 7 different varieties of garlic here that not all of them are gonna form at the exact same time. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna harvest our first set of scapes. Like I said, I think we got most of those picked. And then as they start to form more, like I said, about 75% of this patch at some point will form scapes. We're gonna go through, make sure they're all picked out, and then that way we're gonna have 75% larger garlic cloves. And I think this is a big thing that a lot of gardeners just kind of forget about, or they just assume it's easy to grow, set it and forget it. You can set it and forget it, but if you forget these and you leave them on the plant, you're gonna pay for it. All right, and one final tip to taking your scapes off your garlic is make sure you do it in the early morning. Check it out. If you come in here close, you'll notice this moisture coming out of the scape where we broke the scape off. That is known as weeping, and that's gonna be a lot of moisture loss that the garlic does not want to undergo during the heat of the day. When we get into mid-June, late June, even early July, water conservation is so important to getting large garlic cloves. So make sure you do this in the early morning, no later than probably about 10:30 in the morning, because if you do it during peak day, you're going to lose a lot of that water through weeping, and that water is then going to result in a more stressed plant and smaller cloves. So just make sure that you do it at an earlier time during the day. And also another tip too, I guess tip 1.5 in this part here, you can also water just after you prune, and that's going to reduce how much water loss happens when the weeping actually occurs, because you're naturally going to be breaking plant tissue, and when you break that plant tissue, it hasn't scabbed over yet, it hasn't dried. So just a little tip for you to help increase your success when growing garlic. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. Again, this is just such a simple tip to getting 75% bigger garlic cloves. Anybody can do it, and I know that if you try it, you're gonna love the results that you get. So as always, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit a big green thumbs up. This is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. Take care, bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider checking this one out. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I wanna thank you so much for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's free. Consider doing that. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, rain or shine. And if you need any garden tools, supplies, or seeds, check out MIgardener.com. We got you covered. See you guys in the garden. Bye.